So you want to shoot 35mm film. Maybe you've realized all the disposable cameras you keep buying and throwing away are a complete waste of money. Or maybe you're just ready for better quality, better control, and photos that feel more intentional. I've been shooting film since 2019, and over the years I've gone through all the trials and errors and research and extremely expensive mistakes, so you don't have to. So here's your complete beginner's guide to 35mm film photography. Here's up. Let's start with what's actually 35mm film. 35mm film is a common type of film. It's been around since the 1900s, and it was pretty much the common type of photography until digital cameras took over. This is a film type that you'll find in most shops. It's most readily available, hence why most people tend to shoot it over something like 120. And not only is it still being produced, new films are being developed, and it's also the type of film stock that's compatible with most cameras you're likely to find. Each roll has 36 shots usually. Some can have 24. It comes in a tin that comes in a little plastic container, because not only is film extremely sensitive to light, as most people know, it's also very sensitive to humidity and heat, hence why I always tend to keep my film in the fridge, and hence why you would see it if you go into a proper film shop, that they would most likely always keep the film in the fridge. So what camera should I get? There are two options when it comes to buying a film camera for your 35mm film. You can either get a point and shoot camera or an SLR camera. If you're coming straight from disposable cameras, or you have absolutely no photography experience other than using your phone, I most likely recommend using a point and shoot camera. These are cameras that are automatic, autofocus, auto shutter speed. Everything is pretty much automatic. So you don't have to concentrate on getting the right settings, but instead you can just familiarize yourself with film photography and just photography in general, concepts like framing, colors, without having to stress yourself out about the insane maths and science skills that goes into taking the perfect film picture. This is probably the only real life maths application that I still have to this day. This is also a great camera if you're on the go, if you're like into street photography, or if you like taking pictures of your friends on nights out and stuff like that, or if you're just a lazy photographer like myself. I'm super lazy. I use my point and shoot everywhere I go. This is my baby, by the way. This is the Canon Epoca. I cannot love a camera more than I love her. She is a point and shoot, but the reason why I love this camera so much is, unlike most point and shoots, not only is the zoom literally insane, it has an amazing depth of field, and I've also never really had any issues with the autofocus unless it's super dim light. This camera has never failed me. Also, it has the sexiest flash, which I'm not even into flash photography, but she's really cute. I love her so much. On the other hand, if you're more of an advanced photographer, maybe you shot some digital pictures, maybe you come from a filmmaking background, but if you want to have more control of your images, obviously I would recommend having an SLR camera. These are cameras that are gonna let you manually adjust the aperture, shutter speed, focus. This is very similar to DSLR cameras. Pretty much works the exact same way, other than you don't have a screen. Because of all the control, these cameras tend to be a little bit more expensive, and they're also not making as many new models. Like, I feel with point and shoots, a lot of trendy brands like Urban Outfitters and stuff, they're putting out their own cameras using old point and shoot technology, but just making new cameras. Whereas when it comes to SLRs, because they're a little bit more expensive to fabricate and not as many people are looking for one, you will probably most likely only find these secondhand or in camera shops that are very specialized. But in general, I also just always recommend going with an already pre-established model of camera instead of going for those trendy cameras that are going on. It's so much better to just buy something off like a flea market and then just take it to a camera shop to get it checked. If you buy a camera secondhand, don't forget to get it checked, because you don't want to ruin your film. Now that you've got your camera sorted, let's talk about picking the right film stock for you. Obviously, not all film stocks are created equal. They all have their own different vibe, like color-wise, grain-wise, mood. If you talk to any photographer, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on which is the best film stock. Sort of kind of like using filters, everybody has a specific look that they're most into. So this is really something that you have to just experiment to figure out what you want. I'm gonna give you a piece of advice, and it's when you're starting off in the first ever film roll that you shoot, go for the cheapest film you can find. Because not only do you wanna see if your camera actually works properly, you wanna really familiarize yourself with how you can use it, and you want to experiment a little bit with like how framing looks, how the focus works, how flash looks as opposed to no flash. And your heart's gonna break a little bit if you spend 30 euros on a film stock and all your pictures come out looking unrecognizable. I've been there. Often at times, the cheapest film that you can find is the Kodak Color Plus, which I actually don't hate. I think it's a very basic film for beginners. It's an ISO 200, which basically means that this is going to be best shooting when there's high light, natural light outside. It's cute, it's a little warm. This is very similar to the Kodak Ultramax 400 for me. They both give very similar warmish, slight golden hue tones, but not too much. Personally, I would recommend starting with an ISO 400. I just think it's easier to figure out what works and what doesn't in the sense of lighting. But like I said, you're going to be okay starting off with anything between 200 and 400 ISO. You're gonna be good. Kodak Gold, personally for me, is my biggest enemy in life. I hate Kodak Gold so much. First film that I ever shot because I didn't know better and I just picked up the only film that they had in snappy snaps. And I know most people love it, but I just cannot get behind it. It's so yellow that it overpowers literally any other color that you could capture. Maybe if I try it now, I'll like it a little bit more, but for me, genuinely, just it's not the type of film stock that I like. Again, just personal preferences. Let's talk about film stocks that I actually like and love. First one, obviously, the Portra 400. Sexy. I don't think anybody has ever said they hated this film. The grain is super fine if you care about that. Personally, I really like that, especially if you're shooting in lower light environments. The colors are very soft, and this is super important as well if you're going to shoot portraits. This gives you insane skin rendering, which basically just means that your skin color is actually going to look on the film like it looks in real life, and it's not going to look super yellow or super red. Fujifilm 400 was my first love. This is the film that I used to shoot literally every single month. It used to be called Suspiria or Superia. They stopped fabricating it for a really long time and they just started it again, and it's rebranded to Fujifilm 400. If you've ever tried the Fujifilm Quick Snaps disposable camera, this is basically very similar to the film stock that they have in there. It's just an ISO 400, so it's slightly going to be a bit dimmer than the 800 that's stocked in the disposable cameras. Again, the grain is just super fine, the colors are so beautiful, and it has this hueish, slight hue of red without again making your skin look insane. I just think this is such a beautiful film. This looks so nostalgic for me. I love the Fujifilm 400. Fujifilm, please sponsor me. And lastly, this is a new addition to my favorites list, and this is the Cine Still collection, the 400 and the 800 both alike. I cannot tell you how beautiful this film is. It has the most gorgeous halation effect, which if you're not familiar with color grading or photography, the halation is basically like a little red outline that you would see around people. That sounds insane to explain, but you'd see it a lot in like old film videos, like 16mm Super 8 shorter film. They created this little halation effect that I think is just beautiful, and this one is super subtle, so it doesn't look too overpowering. Again, the colors are just so gorgeous, so soft. And my favorite thing about this is that it feels super cinematic because it's not like the other films that you can find. This is not a color negative film like the other films. The lore here goes crazy, and this is way too much detail from somebody who has absolutely no knowledge of film whatsoever, but if you're interested, essentially the Cine Still films used to be a Kodak motion picture film. They removed the remjet backing layer that's like usually on movie film strips, so now you can use it for still photography instead of like video film. Shot a roll of this for the first time in my life a few months ago, and I'm never going back. This is so gorgeous. Now you're gonna load your film, which is basically gonna be different depending on the camera that you have, so you're better off watching a YouTube tutorial for that specific camera. I'm not very useful, I'm sorry. Goodbye. So once you get to this point, again, the best advice that I can tell you is to just go out and shoot and figure out your style and the things that you like. But if you want to have more tips from myself, my qualifications include a lot of mistakes and a film degree somewhere in there. The first tip that I recommend to you is understanding ISO. Like I said before, the film ISO number is going to tell you how sensitive the film stock is to light. Lower numbers like 100 and 200 are less sensitive to light, so they're best shot during the day. Higher numbers like 400 and 800, they're better for lower light. If you're used to shooting with digital cameras, this is a big difference, that your ISO is actually fixed when it comes to shooting film. Whatever film stock you buy is the ISO that all your pictures are going to turn out. You cannot edit that. So what is aperture? Like I said, again, if you're using an SLR or a manual camera of some sorts, the aperture is basically going to give you the control of the depth of field in your picture. I feel like I'm teaching a photography class, but I'm going to pull out the diagram. A low F number like f/1.8 is going to mean a shallow depth of field, so this is going to be used for things like portraits or object photography. A higher F number like f/11 is going to give you more of a sharper focus, so this is good for like landscapes or group pictures. And then your shutter speed, very important, is going to control how much light the film's gonna get. Think of your shutter speed as like a little, the longer it's open, aka the slower the shutter speed, the more time for the lights to get into the film stock. I feel like I'm teaching a GCSE photography class. If your camera is not a point and shoot, or it doesn't have a feature where it tells you how many shots there's left, make sure you track this so you avoid double exposure. This is basically just means when you shoot 2 pictures in the space of 1 picture on your film roll. Also, if you're completely new to photography, I guess something very important to mention is just like composition tips. Something very easy to keep in mind is just the rule of thirds. Basically just means when you look through your viewfinder in your camera, you create a little line, and when you're trying to frame your subject or your objects or anything that's in your picture, like it could be a landscape, but maybe you just have a tree and you don't really know if you should put the tree to the side or to the middle. The rule of thirds basically just says to put the tree wherever the lines are. Also, this is my personal life hack that I've been gatekeeping for years. I don't know why, because it makes absolutely zero difference if other people know about it. It actually is better if other people know about it. If you've been shooting with film and you want to try out a new film stock and you don't really know what it looks like, and you've Googled pictures but they'll kind of look different, or you're not sure if they're actually from that film stock, Google the film stock you want to use, like Kodak, Color Plus, and then the word lomography behind, and then you can go on the website Lomography. That is an absolute lifesaver for anybody who's into film photography, because not only can people upload their pictures with the film they use, they can also do it with the camera they use. So if you want to buy a new camera and you're not too sure how the quality will be, you can also search it up here. I hope that I have explained pretty much everything you need to know when you're starting off your film photography journey. But if you have any more questions, you can leave them below in the comments, or you can just DM them to me. My socials are always findable somewhere, maybe in the bio, I don't know. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. I don't know, like only if you feel like it. Okay, having said that, I will see you next time. Bye.